Welcome to Chew the Fat. In this series, I sit down with high-performance guests and we talk about life, business, and what it takes to be at the top. This is part of my mission to raise $1 million for charity by writing a cookbook called Eat with Purpose. But I'm going to need your help. If you can share the content and leave a review, it's going to make a massive impact. And the bigger the audience, the greater the reach, and the sooner we can get to that $1 million goal. Enjoy the episode. Maya Vander, welcome to Chew the Fat.
Hi, thank you for having me. Welcome to Miami.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And so many people would know you from the show Selling Sunset. And
what show? I never heard of it.
Well, the Australians definitely would have. And what I'd love to kind of get to is, what's the context in your childhood that made you the person you are?
Wow. I think, so I grew up in a small country. It's called Israel. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's all over the news right now, at least in the last few months. And our childhood was very simple, and we had like, unfortunately, different reality. We're just growing up, and that reality which you see in the news, it's obviously involved in some terrors, and people just, hate us. Unfortunately, it's hard to say, but it's the truth. And because of that, I think I always took things in perspective, and what's important in life and what's not. So I think that's just what made me who I am. And when you come to a new country like the US, I was like 21 years old. I was very ambitious to make it. And I think that's part of it because I grew up in a small country and very simple. And I think that's the reason, like who I am today.
Amazing.
Like I hustle.
And what did it feel like when you entered the US at 21 years old? Like, it's quite late to move into a new country.
It was a culture shock.
Yeah.
I moved because I was also dating an American guy at the time. So I came for love to Los Angeles. But I remember like the first couple of days I cried. I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I? Like, this is intimidating. But then you get used to it. And LA has something that sucks you in. Like, you just get very comfortable in LA. And before you know it, 10 years go by. But I love the US. I know people complain about it, the politics and all that, but I think it's still such a great country to be in. And it's the land of opportunities. And I think if you work hard in this country, you can really make it.
And what was the thing that got you from that 21-year-old lady to starting to become a realtor?
Yes, I was working in a clothing store on Melrose Avenue. And I was always in retail. And then at some point, my mom told me, why don't you go sell real estate? And I'm the person who likes security and like, the paycheck and like stability. And I took a chance. I'm like, you know what? I'm good with sales. I love homes. I love real estate. Why not? So I took my license and then I joined my first brokerage in Los Angeles, a small boutique firm in Beverly Hills. And I remember I asked my broker at the time, okay, I got my license. Now what? And he's like, now go talk to people. Tell them you sell houses. And I was just like a networking machine, but it's a process. And that was my first reason. Like, honestly, my mom, she told me to just go do it. Amazing.
And what was, that process? Was there a lot of training and learning from that, how to do that, or you had to figure it out?
Zero. You have to figure it out. Like in the real estate course, they teach you like the very, like the crazy things that you're never actually going to practice in real estate. And once you go into the actual, job, you really they throw you to the pool and you have to learn how to swim.
Wow.
So that's how I did it. I just every transaction, by the way, till this day, every transaction I learn. And it's a great business. It's a great career to be in. I've been doing it for 12 years and I'm still learning. But yeah, you just kind of go with the flow and then you learn as you go, which is kind of crazy because imagine you're buying a house. Yeah. Now, by the way, I can tell you something now. I know what I'm doing. But it was a process.
Yeah, it's blowing my mind because I'm in real estate in Australia, and real estate in Australia is quite different to here in the US, from what I understand. So here in the US, I believe there's something like 2 million realtors, and the average number of transactions, not for yourself, is roughly like 1 to 3. I think it is something like that. In Australia, we have a highly condensed number of agents, but there's these like powerhouse groups or businesses, and so it's all about the rigor and training. So when I think about you going in there and there isn't that training, I'm like, wow. I'm like, how did you? how?
So they do. So a lot of the brokerages here now, they do offer training for new agents. So I was also with Keller Williams at some point. It's a big broker here in the US. and they offer a lot of training. But at the end of the day, once you go live on a transaction, so many things can go either right or wrong. And you have to like be a problem solver and be creative. And now you are a therapist to your client because it's a very emotional business. So they don't teach you that in real estate school. But look, I'm not like operating on a brain, right? But still, you have to know what you're doing.
And apart from the hustle that immigrant lifestyle of moving country, was ingrained in you, what other areas of like success do you think you had? Why you were able to rise to the top?
So also like I was 21 years old, I moved here, I was very like ambitious, but I was also in a relationship. I think once like actually that relationship was ended, I felt more motivated to do things and not just go back to Israel and just do what I did before. I was determined. So then I got my real estate license and I'm like, okay, I don't have a degree. I didn't go to college. I came in when I was 21 in love. I was with a guy and like, this is the time to do me. And I had no other choice because I'm like, if I don't have a degree, what else am I going to do? So I started doing real estate, which, it's interesting because you don't have to have a degree to sell real estate and people think it's easy, but so many things can go, like I said before, like right or wrong. But I was very determined to just make it. And once you become also technically independent and your own boss, it's very difficult to go work for someone else. And I think that's part of the reason. I just had no choice but to do it.
And I've heard you say the word a couple of times, you needed to make it. What did that look like in your mind at that age? Like, what did make it look like?
So make it have a little bit more like financial stability. Let's just call the boy in his name. I'm not like some billionaire or millionaire. Well, maybe including my husband, maybe, but it depends. But make it like it's just financial stability, the freedom. If I want to buy something, I can. That's to me make it. To not be stressed about every month how to pay the bills.
Okay. And what was the moment where selling Sunset, the TV show, became an opportunity for you?
Yeah, so I was already doing real estate for about 2.5 years. Jason opened the brokerage, the Oppenheim Group at the time in LA. And I remember I used to go door knock up in the hills to get business because that was free and I didn't have money to spend on marketing. But then I saw Jason's marketing packages, like so beautiful in the doors. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to compete with this guy? Long story short, he actually approached me on Facebook and he's like, hey, I'm opening a new office. And he knew me from the industry because everybody knows each other in LA. And he's like, me and Brett, and it was another guy, Graham, we opened in the brokerage, you want to join? And I like the fact that it was right on Sunset Plaza, right when I was door knocking, and everybody see you. And I can say, I'm with the Oppenheim Group, and we have the office down the street, and beautiful marketing. So I joined, and that was like me being in the old group. Long story short, it was the other girls joined after me, Heather, Christine, Mary. And then we did a photo shoot, and he put the billboard on Sunset Plaza with us, and also he did an advertisement on a magazine. I think it was Hollywood Reporter or one of those magazines that producers can see. And the Selling Sunset producers saw it, pitched the show to Jason. Jason first declined. Producer was consistent with him, and then eventually we said yes, and we started filming a demo, and that's how I ended up in Selling Sunset. Like random, I was just doing real estate, and here I am.
And what's the thing that people wouldn't realize about that? I'm sure you get so many questions, but is there anything that that is like unobvious about being on a show like that is so large that stands out?
Yeah, people think, first of all, they all think we're actors, actresses. They're like, oh, I love you. I love the way you act on Selling Sunset. I'm like, I'm not an actress. I do real estate. This is my full-time job. But also people don't understand that it is a TV show. Sometimes you have to amp things for the drama. The drama is real. But, like if I ask a question or roll my eyes or something, sometimes the editing can be very misleading. And it's at the end of the day, the producers are here to entertain. So some people takes it very hard and serious and like, oh, Maya is an instigator in my case. She said things and she moved and she leaves. And I'm like, if I'm not going to ask a question or say something that related to the scene or the drama, I'm not even going to be on the show. So it's a TV show, and people need to just understand that we all and we get it. Season 1, we didn't know what we do. In season 2, we are like, okay, we can now get what we need to kind of like do.
And what was the impact it had on your business being on that show?
So I can tell you, I still hustle and I still work on getting leads. Like I don't see my phone ringing off the hook from clients who necessarily want to sell or buy with me because unfortunately for me, like I was like LA, Miami. So a lot of people in Miami still think I'm in LA. So I have to do a lot of marketing around Miami. But I do get credibility once people know who I am and they trust me, because at the end of the day, like, I guess, my character or my acting skill in Selling Sunset did show that I'm there for the real estate. And I think it just gives me credibility and exposure. And exposure to other things also, whether if it's endorsements on social media or like interviewing, with podcasts or other things that potentially can rise from that. But in terms of real estate, it gives you some sort of credibility, but I still have to find business, because sometimes people think maybe I'm too busy or too cool, or maybe I won't sell a $1 million condo because I don't do that stuff, but it's not true. We do it. I do rentals. I do it all.
That's really interesting, because off the spin-off of Selling Sunset, Australia wanted to do something similar in Australia that went on Amazon, and I sat down with a guy called Gav Rubenstein who was on that show, and for him, from his business, it like fundamentally shift. A lot of it was around new employees coming in, as well as like the phone ringing off the hook for properties. But the one challenge he had was, of course, the fame that comes with it, and not being able to leave the streets. How did you, sitting here today with you, you're a very normal person, we're just having a nice chat, and I think about that fame, and it's like almost a very different world. So how did you manage that?
So yeah, like usually when we go to dinners, people recognize me and they say hi. Sometimes they want to take a picture. But for me, like again, my mindset is so like, look, I'm not Kim Kardashian. I mean, Selling Sunset took off and it was very successful, and I'm very thankful for that. And yes, people recognize me everywhere I go, also when I do showings with real estate. But it's not crazy, right? It's not like I can't leave my house and have paparazzi waiting for me. It's not that. Also, because maybe my character on Selling Sunset was very just like the mom, like I don't have anything exciting going on. And thank God, because if you see the other girls' drama right now off camera, it's like I wouldn't want to be there and be in their shoes. So I'm very humble when it comes to that, because for me, like I'm just there. I want to sell your house. I want you to use me as your buyer representative. Like that's how I look at my business. Like I'm fully in real estate. Everything around it, it's a plus. And Selling Sunset was an amazing bonus, and very lucky to be part of it.
Amazing. And now you have moved full time to Miami. You mentioned about 7 years ago. How's that shift been for you? And there was a shift in the group you're working with too.
Yeah, so look, once I've officially done with the show, because I have like 3 kids now, it's very difficult to fly West Coast, East Coast every week to film.
That's actually really interesting. Do you know what else is interesting? The Eat with Purpose cookbook. It's part of my mission to raise $1 million for charity. This podcast is a part of that goal, and what you can do is like, comment, share, and leave us a review. Let's get back to the guest.
And I decided to make the decision that it's very difficult. And, let's face it, they want the drama, they want the crazy fashion. And if I'm flying 5 hours, like I don't have the energy to put the crazy fashion and the glam and all that. I'm just like there to film a scene. So I made the decision. I moved to Compass. It's a big brokerage in the US.
Yes.
I love them. I love their branding. They're very sleek, and it's kind of like aligned with my style. Although you see me very casual now, but I like the luxury style and reputation. And because of that, it was a conflict of interest, which quietly I hang my license with Compass in LA. I still have an amazing relationship with the brothers and with the girls, and they're like family to me, but it was just like professional decision that I had to make. And I have a team. I have 5 ladies on my team, because at the end of the day, I do have 3 kids, and sometimes, like yesterday, my daughter was sick, and all of a sudden I cannot do the showing. So I decided to form a team here, and hopefully we can grow the business. It's been real estate. It's a crazy business. It's like a roller coaster. It can go ups and downs. If I don't close a deal for like a month, I go crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't closed anything in a month. Sometimes I need to tell myself, maybe it's okay, because then you can take it easy and relax, because clients are very demanding. So,
and what about now that you have a team of 5? Like, what were the lessons you learned from when you first started that you're trying to impart on them? And I'm sure training is probably one of them. Yeah,
exactly. So, and it's hard, right? Because I don't have the time to train. I don't have the time to mentor, but I try to talk to them every day with my team girls, and like at least see, you need anything? Do you need my help? I try to guide as much as I can, and I try to be involved as much as I can with transactions that I feel like maybe they need my support. But it's very difficult, because I don't have time, right? Like I'm in my time to train, I rather like go prospect or do cold call and do stuff that create business for myself. But I try to help them because when I first started, nobody helped me and I didn't have any mentor or anything like that. So I try to do as much as I can. That's why I rather like have agents who are experienced a little bit and did couple of like transaction that I don't have to like babysit completely.
Awesome. And what about you mentioned the mentoring? Is there a process that you do to kind of bring people up? Is there any I guess takeaways for the audience that they think about as they grow their team that they could implement?
I mean, you always have to be like a team leader in terms of like being positive and showing an example. If I'm doing cold call and I tell you let's focus on getting listings, it means you should also maybe or you can try to do cold call as well. Like if I'm doing it, you can do it. If you want to do door knock or whatever prospecting way. But you want to set an example for your team. If I would be sitting on the couch watching TV all day long, then what an example I'm setting. So and you try to have to stay like positive and like stay with a good mindset. It's not always easy. It's not always perfect. Right now we have like a change in the real estate industry in the US with some crazy lawsuit. It's a whole.
Is that something
it's ridiculous to me?
Because I've been hearing over in Australia, very far away, about there's a separation that now there'll be a buyer's agent and a seller's agent fee. Is that from this lawsuit?
So, you always technically have a listing agent representing the seller and a buyer agent representing the buyer. Occasionally, you do have the buyer come directly to the listing agent because they think they're going to save on the commission. But the listing agent have fiduciary relationship to the client, to the seller. So I feel like that lawsuit is a little bit ridiculous because as a listing agent, I always tell you, hey, like I'm going to list your house. I'm going to take whatever, 3% or 2.5% to represent you.
Yep.
The buyer agent, I highly recommend giving them 2.5 or 3% because I want them to bring their client to the house. If they see that there is no incentive or commission offered, they're not going to bring the clients to the house, and then we might end up with less buyers. So it's always a suggestion, was always a suggestion, but sellers are typically paying the buyer's commission. Now the lawsuit changed and they say the buyer has to pay the commission to their agent. So I see a little bit difficulty with that because buyers who like more financing a property, now they have to come up with a check, $50,000, $40,000 for the commission. It's a lot of money, and I don't think buyers are going to do it, even if you show how much you provide value as a buyer agent because you're going to protect your client. Still, it's a financial decision. And a seller pay commission based on, okay, what am I going to net? These are my closing costs, buyer fee, agent fee, title, and escrow company. This is what I want to sell for. So this whole lawsuit is a bit like, to me, ridiculous, but...
It's really interesting, and it's been like the talk of a town in Australia because the way that it's going to be shifting is how we've had it in Australia for essentially forever. So you can't even within the same organisation represent the buyer and the seller. It has to be coming from a third party. That being said, almost every transaction that happens here in the US has a buyer and a seller's agent. So it's really interesting. Like, how do you think you're going to be able to? Like, what are your steps to navigate that in the business with such a fundamental change?
Look, I do buyer leads online, and I might have to shift that. So I might have to shift to focus really on getting more listings, which is, it's not easy, but it's like meaning like just prospecting for the listings because I might get just buyer directly representing the seller. Also, the crazy thing is like a lot of the estates in the US prior to this lawsuit, it wasn't legal to do dual agency. Like you cannot represent buyer and seller because there is a conflict there. It's like an attorney representing both sides. It's like, to me, it's a little bit crazy, but then buyers, I think, will go directly more to the listing agent or the buyer will have to sign an exclusive agreement with their agent for them to be represented by a buyer's agent. But then what are the fees? What are they going to pay? That's a big question. Because are they going to pay the 2.5%, 5%? Or are we going to start seeing flat fee? Like, I'll represent you, but pay me $1,000 to show you 5 properties. Like, it's a little bit unclear. I think I'm going to just shift my business towards getting more listings and just work with less buyers because I don't want to deal with like the fees and potentially cut the 2.5 or 3%. Unless it's a buyer that I know and trust. And hopefully the seller will still pay the commission. I think that's going to be the case anyways. But just conversation with the buyers that never met you, online leads. They're like, oh, now you sign an exclusive with me. And these are my fees. I think it's going to be a bit challenging there.
Yeah, I think it's a big education piece and potentially an opportunity because it's like a shifting completely. So I kind of want to take a step back for a moment and look at your career as a whole. What would you say the biggest challenge you've faced to date in your career so far?
I think it's always just like getting clients. Some clients can be not loyal to you and you work really hard. I feel like with selling sunset, actually, I got some fake clients too that I thought they were real. They show me proof of funds and I don't know, maybe they work it on Canva or something, but it was fake. So I think that's the challenge with this business. And just people in general. I mean, it's you always hustle, even with the TV show. You always hustle. But it's part of it, you're in sales and you hope to gain loyalty from clients and just work on that relationship. And that's it. Like those are the challenges. It's, and sometimes it could be not consistent.
Amazing. And it's funny as we started and I hear, you have 3 kids and I reflect because I have one son, Oscar, 2 years old.
Oh, nice. So that's like terrible too.
Yeah. But I'm like, it is amazing. I have so much respect for people being able to juggle more than one and you being able to juggle 3.
People always ask me how I do it.
It's incredible. So I'm impressed. And so thank you for being able to come here today.
I got a babysitter today because I didn't want to miss it. And, I have a good baby, but she could be like crying now. Like I wanted to have the podcast. So I got the sitter, but then after that, I actually have a showing later, and I'm going to bring her with me. What am I going to do?
Nice.
So either canceling the showing or bring her with. So I'll bring her with.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. And I can imagine that it creates like authenticity with the client, right? It's like, this is me, this is who I am. And babies are adorable too, so that helps.
We don't have a nanny. When my daughter was born, the baby, I had someone that was there like a couple of days a week because I didn't want to put her in daycare yet, but then I put her in daycare. But then she gets sick all the time. So look, I pick up the kids from school around 4:30, 4:45, and then I'm just with them.
Amazing. And what about, what would you boil down your single most proud moment in your career to date?
Wow. I think a couple of them. My first house that I sold to a celebrity, I was very proud of myself.
Are we allowed to use their name?
Ludacris.
Very cool.
That was my first big sale for a celebrity, and I loved him. I love him still. I love the songs. I was proud of that. I'm very proud of establishing the team here in Miami and just honestly creating new business here because it's a new market for me at the end of the day. I lived in LA 15 years. Yes, we moved here 7 years ago, but at the end of the day, I was flying for the last 5. And creating a family, obviously. I should have probably put creating family first.
No, that's okay.
I know I'm always going to the professional. Creating family is amazing, being a mom. And manage to just work and be independent and do your own thing. And I love it.
That's awesome. And I could see your face just absolutely lit up when you talked about those different aspects and those different moments. It's always nice to be able to sit back and kind of reflect of those. Often with high performers, we don't get those moments to sit there and reflect on those achievements that we've had through. So it's very cool to see.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect to Jason. So I follow a lot of what type of marketing he was doing in LA, and I'm doing something similar here in Miami just to create my brand and work on my brand and my name, following, post TV show and all that.
And lastly, I want to come back to this, the idea that you've moved from Israel at 21 and I guess those lessons that taught you. What are the key lessons that you want to pass on to your kids that they won't necessarily go through that journey, but what are the key things, the values that you want to instill?
Yeah, I wish, I feel like if my kids would actually grow up in Israel with the craziness that's going around, I think they would have a more simple, they would be more tough and strong versus growing up here. Because I had a very open childhood. I was 14 years old and what's his name? Tiesto used to come to my hometown in Eilat in the south. And he was DJing, and I was 15 years old, 14 years old, going to the parties there on the beach. And I never did drugs, by the way, in my life. I don't do that. I don't believe in that. But I was just free. And I don't think my kids will have it in the US because, here you're always afraid, some kid will get, abducted. So I would say the freedom. I wish they would be learn to be tough and strong and take things in proportion. Because people here have it easy. And when I see the drama that people are focusing here in the US, it drives me crazy because I see what's going on in the world, and especially where I'm from, when we are in a war. Like I think I always take things in perspective.
This perspective is so important, isn't it? You know, like where we live in Australia, it's incredible. It's incredibly safe. And as you become more used to that, you like, to your point, it's like you start to worry about problems that you're like, that's, you know, like someone hands water. It's like, oh, it's not perfectly cold, you know, like, and like it's really hard as humans because we become like homeostasis. We become used to our surroundings.
Yeah.
And I find that, you know, I not quite the same story, but immigrant background from South Africa. And it's like, you know, going back there and seeing, you know, the country, seeing, you know, 11 million homes without power, it always keeps that perspective, you know, grounded in you that you're like, it's okay, it's, you know, it's room temperature
Exactly.
water.
I'll take the tap water. It's totally fine. I know. That's why, like, I always like, I think that those are the things that sometimes I struggle a little bit with selling Sunset because I'm like, who cares if I have a nice bag, or who cares? But I know it's for the show and it's for the fashion, and people love to watch it. But for me, like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to show off if I have, like, of course I like nice things and I have nice things, but most of the time you'll see me like this, very simple and barely even wearing jewelry. But so I think, like, yeah, like just those things, like, and I wish my kids would. I think it's going to be tough, you know, to have the same mentality for my kids, because at the end of the day, they are here. Their dad is also American. They raised, you know, they grew up here in Miami. Everything is like, my daughter's like, oh, can we just go to Target and buy something? Granted, Target is not fancy, but she's like, oh, can we just go and buy something? Like, no, you got to work hard to buy something.
Sometimes I ask that question also because it's like selfishly for me, because I like to get people's perspective as like, how do you, because I think that resilience piece and the perspective is so important, and I'm always trying to go like, you know, how do I, you know, what are the things I do today to be able to instill that in my son? And, you know, like an example, you know, I was looking after my brother's kids last week, and we're playing soccer, and he's 4 years old, and my wife says to me, you're not letting him score a goal. And I'm like, this is life. You know, like I go, the moment he does score a goal, he's going to feel so much more proud that he did it, and he knew that I just didn't give in. And exactly what happened. He scored 3, and he was rubbing it in for the rest of the day.
That's
like
amazing.
And you can see that in their face. And I know that's just a micro moment, but it's like we kind of have to create those micro moments as parents to be like, okay, what are these values given the particular environment? It's not necessarily going to shape it.
It reminds me, like, we play card games with my kids like every night almost, and we play like Uno is one of them, or Candyland or whatever, right? Shoots another, but my son loses, right? And he goes crazy when he loses, and I'm like, Aiden, it's okay. You win some, you lose some. You try again, and you, like, don't give up, you know? So that's what I try to implement him, because he's like 5 years old, but it's like he go crazy. He's just so frustrated when he loses. It's cute, but I'm like, you know, so
it's so important. And it's like, it's one of those things I have in my mind, you know, with schools and things like that. And, you know, in Australia, there might be at a particular age, you don't get to lose. You know, everybody gets an achievement award, and it's like, you know, life unfortunately just isn't like that. You know, you're going to get to an age, and like, you go for a job or start a business. You know, the achievement is not just showing up. You have to actually put in the effort as well. Yeah,
and also getting there. Like, look, I used to model. I got so many times rejection. With real estate, sometimes, you know, a client chooses to work with someone else, you get rejected. You just have to kind of like brush it off and move on to the next one without losing it, right? Because that's life. Life is not easy.
And my last question for you is, what's something that people don't ask you, or something I haven't asked you today? Is there anything on top of your mind like that?
Wow. Gosh, not really. People typically ask. Yeah, I mean, I'm very open too. So I'm like, you can ask me anything. I don't get any questions that like people. I mean, I'm sure now when you ask me, I'm like, what people don't ask me? I don't know, actually.
That's okay. That's all right. Maya, I really appreciate your time. Thank you. It's awesome to meet you.
Thank you so much. So should I call you Chef Francois?
Oh, yes.
Chef Francois. But you're doing also amazing things. So good for you.
Thank you so much.